Alright, now let's take a look at project file structure in our Android Studio. So as you can see here to our left in our Android project view here, we have this folder called app. So if we close everything, we have this folder called app. But at the bottom we also have this Gradle scripts. To start with, Gradle is the build system behind Android Studio. It takes care of building applications so that you can then take those applications and publish or run on your device and so forth. And we'll talk more about that. In our app folder, we have within this folder app, we also have manifest and Java and res for resource folders. Now the first one is manifest. Here in the manifest we have this Android manifest.xml file, and we will go into details, but just know that inside of manifest's folder we have this manifest file which has some XML or markup that's used in our applications. We'll talk about our manifest file into more details later. Let's close that. And below that we have this Java folder here, and within the Java folder we have two more folders. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. So you can see they all look the same, and if you recall, if you've been following our Java intro programming fundamentals in the previous video, we always emphasize on always make sure you have a package name. As you can see, this is a package name that we've named. Here there's two, and they all have the same name, but the last one had this Android test to it. Now let's open the first one. Inside the first one we have this main activity, which is a Java file. Yay, Java. And this main activity, that's essentially our first screen that pops up when we run our app. That's all the code comes from here, and this is where we're going to put all other Java files when we are creating our apps. This is where everything goes. Now the second one here, as you can see, it says application test. This is where you do tests on your apps. So all the files, Java files that you use to run tests on your app will go under this folder here. As you can see, it says Android test. If we go below, we have this res folder here, resources, and inside of our resources folder we have drawable, we have layout, we have menu, we have values. Let's start with drawable. Drawables are just images. So all the images that we want, for instance, to use in our applications for our buttons, our backgrounds, and so forth, this is where it goes. As you can see, Android comes with, when we create our project, it gives us a few of IC launcher. These are just icons for our app, and we can always change those. So drawables, just images. You can just put images there. That's where all the images that we use in our apps go. In the layouts folder, that's all of our layout XML files go. So in Android, we'll talk more about this, of course. In Android, all of the views are created using XML files. And if we double click here, you can see we've seen this before. You can go to text to see the actual XML file. So that's where we go. So if you want another view for our applications, this is where we go. We just added a different one here and we're ready to go. Okay, let's close that. Close this. Now our menu is the same thing here, except now all of the XML view files that go in here are meant to work for menus, and we'll talk about that later. But essentially it's the same thing as just layout, but just a different category. And values, inside of values we have this dimensions folder, which also has two XML files. And now the dimensions folder, it's a folder where you can set your dimensions. Let's say if you want to make sure that certain views have let's say 200 pixels by 150, something like that. This is where you put all of that. So as you can see here, it says horizontal margin 16 dp. So that's just where you set your dimensions values. And you have two because Android runs on different devices with the different screen sizes. So you can actually use, first one here is for general, like smaller screen sizes, and this one is for bigger screen sizes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. but this is where you set all of your dimensions. And below that we have strings. Now strings is a file that's very important in Android because this is where we set our strings and text that we then use in our apps. As you can see here, for instance, hello world is set in the strings.xml, but is then used in our Java code to then show onto the screen this hello world. The styles is where we can actually create our own styles, the look and feel of our application. And we go over that as well. Now, if you look here at the top, there's this triangle here. If you click on that, it gives you all of these things here. Now, these are just navigation to show you the bigger spectrum of the Android file system. Okay, so if we go to packages here, as you can see, it just shows all the packages and everything else. And most of the stuff we've seen already, like layout. But now you see, instead of just drawable, we also have different kind of drawables. We have drawable HDPI for higher, drawable HDPI. This is for phones with higher resolutions, and this is for where we put then drawables or images. For, in this case, MDPI, that's for devices with medium screen sizes, and this is for larger devices. And the one here, XX HDPI, that's where we put images for tablets and so forth. And we'll obviously talk more about this, so don't worry. And of course, we've seen layout and everything. But as you can see here, and then if we decide, then we go a little bit deeper project. Now you see here we have at the top, so we went to the root directory now, and you have all these different folders here, because before all we could see was just the app, and we can drill down inside the app, but now we actually went to the root folder where the app resides. And you have this .idea folder here. We'll talk more about it, but don't worry about it now. We have this build. This is where everything is generated as we build our apps. And here's this libs, that's for libraries. We'll be using some libraries, essentially code that somebody else already wrote, so that we can use to write on top of that, so that we don't have to go and reinvent the wheel. Okay? And of course we've seen resources, Android test, and a main. That's where our Java, and we've seen that. We're looking at it now in a different perspective. And if you want to go back to that perspective we were looking at, we can just go back to Android and we're back here. All right. Well, this is it for this video.